In this video, we're going to go through how to rearrange equations that involve multiplication and division. We'll do that using 3 examples. Let's look at the first example. We need to solve for P1 in this Boyle's law equation. So the first thing that we need to do is to ask what's the relationship between P1 and V1. We want to solve for P1, right? So looks like it's multiplication. In order to get rid of V1, we'll need to do the opposite, which is division. So we'll need to divide P1 V1 with V1, and since we did that on the left hand side, we need to do the same on the right hand side. And we simplify the equation. V1 will cancel out on the left hand side, and that will give us P1 all by itself. So we get P1 is equals P2 V2 over V1. Let's look at this next example. It's Charles' law. V1 over T1 equals V2 over T2. We're supposed to solve for V1, and T1 is in the way on the left hand side. So we need to move it so that we will have V1 all by itself. The relationship between V1 and T1 is division. So in order to get rid of T1, we will need to do the opposite, which is multiplication. So we multiply by T1, and what will happen is it will cancel out the T1, and that will give us V1 all by itself. That's what we want. And whatever it is that we do on one side, we have to do it on the other side. So we need to multiply T1 on the right hand side as well. Now we simplify the equation, and then we will get V1 is equals to V2 over T2 times T1. So what if we don't want to solve for V1? What if we have Charles' law, but now we are solving for T1, which is at the bottom? The idea is still the same. It's just that now it will involve a few more steps. So let's get T1 on the top first, because it's at the bottom, right? So we'll multiply T1 on both sides, and that will get rid of T1 on the left hand side. Next, we'll move V2 and T2 so that we'll end up with T1 on the right hand side. Let's handle V2 first. We'll do it one by one. Since the relationship with what we want, which is T1, is multiplication, so what we'll need to do is the opposite, which is divide. So let's divide by V2. Don't forget to do the same thing on the left hand side. That will remove V2 on the right. Now let's take care of T2. Since it's related to T1 by division, so we'll need to do the opposite, which is multiplication. Let's multiply T2 on both sides. That will get rid of T2 on the right hand side. Looks like we're done. If you notice, on the right hand side, now we only have T1 left. So let's go ahead and simplify. T1 is equals to V1 times T2 divided by V2. To recap, when rearranging multiplication or division equation, make sure that you perform the opposite operation. When what we want to get rid of is related by multiplication, we will need to divide that term on both sides. And when what we want to get rid of is related through division, we will need to multiply that term on both sides. I hope you find the video helpful. Do subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.